What's going on, guys? Connor Wells here. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all safe and well. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the surprise. And I say surprise with a literal meaning. It was a huge surprise. Didn't know this was going to happen. Surprise album from Taylor Swift. She has dropped her 8th studio album, which is called Folklore. And upon hearing the title, seeing the album cover, before even hearing the tracks, I had a vision of sort of what I could think this album would sound like, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to share my thoughts and if my expectations of this album called Folklore lived up to them. Let's get into it. So Taylor Swift dropped this album, announced the album on the same day as One Direction's 10th anniversary. Coincidence, maybe? But good timing, because everybody was on Twitter that day, so it's a good chance to share the news of a new studio album. Now, the album's called Folklore. It's a very simple album cover. It's black and white, her standing in the woods, looking very sort of reminiscent, and I think that reflects very much the tone of the album. The album starts with track number 1, which is called The One. Pretty fitting. Starts off with simple piano, really nice beats as well, and even swearing. Like in the first line, Taylor Swift is swearing on the album. For a very, very delicate song, and having swearing, you know that this album is going to be different. And it was. It was very different. Cardigan is track number 2, and that's sort of like the first single, so to speak. She actually made a music video for this, which she directed, and did an incredible job. I've also seen on the Taylor Swift website, you can actually buy like a package of the album with a cardigan, like a Taylor Swift cardigan, which I think is pretty sick, you know, really, really cool. The melody of the piano really reminds me of sort of new Norah Jones, you know, as Norah Jones started to move away from the jazzy kind of stuff that she used to do, it really reminds me of that, you know, particularly the piano and the guitars in this track, which I am so pleased to hear that guitars are back on a Taylor Swift album. You have no idea how happy that makes me to hear guitars on a Taylor Swift album. Now, 3 of the highlights from this album are Cardigan, August and Betty. Despite the same sort of love triangle that these 3 songs sing about, they're all sort of from different perspectives, and also I think some of her best and most detailed songwriting. Whereas there are other songs which tell both sides of the story, like The One, the track called Peace, Invisible String and The Lakes. I'm reading off my notes, so I don't want to get these titles wrong, because they're all just sort of beautiful titles, if you think. It's a very, very beautiful album to listen to. Next track is The Last Great American Dynasty. Taylor Swift clearly has done her research. I had to do my research on what this song was about. It's apparently about the story of someone called Rebecca Harkness, who's married to Bill Harkness in 1947. That marriage subsequently made her quite wealthy and sort of clashed with her subversive side, apparently. I had to do my research. It's a very, very interesting story. I really love the vocal melody on this. You know how it goes from really low to high, so yeah, I probably haven't got it right, but you get the gist. Now, my favourite track on the album. When this came on, I thought it was just Spotify shuffling a song halfway through an album again, but then I remembered I have Spotify Premium, so that shouldn't happen. Either way, Exile with Bon Iver, I don't really know how to pronounce it, I love him, but my God, it starts off with his really, really gruff voice over soft piano, and it's a very unexpected tone on the first half of the album. It's very, very moody, very gothic, which I like. It's a song of betrayal, I think, and the fact that this song Taylor recorded her parts of this song in LA, and Vernon, as Bon Iver's real name, recorded his parts in Wisconsin, it seems very fitting to sort of detail the distance. My Tears Ricochet, it's a solo pen song by Taylor Swift. She wrote that one all by herself. She does have backing performance by Jack Antonoff, who was, I believe, in the band Fun. Whatever happened to them? I believe the singer went solo at the peak of their success. and his sort of solo career flopped. Nothing really came of it. Whereas Jack Antonoff is obviously a very world-famous producer, very respected writer and producer and multi-instrumentalist, so he's done pretty well for himself. But again, this song comes across very, very gothic in tone and in lyrics. Now, Mirrorball, that's one of my favourite tracks of this album. I just love this album, actually, if I'm going to be honest. I wasn't a fan of Reputation. I did a few reviews of tracks on it, but wasn't a fan of Reputation. There was a few tracks on Lover, which I did love. Obviously, the title track, incredible. Loved Niall Horan's cover of that as well. That was absolutely brilliant. The Archer and You Need to Calm Down, great tracks on that album, but it's so different to this album. There's no sort of lead poppy single, you know. It's very raw and delicate, in my opinion. Now, getting back to Mirrorball, it's just a very simple sort of indie folk song. It reminds me of something like Phoebe Bridgers would put out. Really, really great harmonies and live drums. I just love live drums. I hate sort of programmed drums. I mean, on some tracks and songs it can work, but on stuff like this, programmed drums don't fit. Live drums all the way. Nailed it. Another track that I did particularly like was the track 7. Big fan of that track. The strings and drums and synthesizers and acoustic guitar just all complemented the song. Another track that I mentioned, which was a highlight track for me, was the song August. It's a song that builds into such a powerful, big, full bridge, you know, with her vocals and harmonies and all of the instrumentation. It just builds up so well. I wish that bridge and really big, long, powerful bit would last a little bit longer. You know, if it lingered a little bit more, that would be nice. But I do sort of love how it fades off to go a bit more delicate towards the end. One of my favourite lines from that song is, "Will you call when you're back at school? I remember thinking I had you." It's just a great line, isn't it? Really, really great line. This Is Me Trying probably has one of the simplest choruses, but I think it works really, really well. The electric guitar echo is absolutely mesmerising as well, and yeah, I really, really love that. Like I said earlier, it's just great to hear guitars back on a Taylor Swift album. Like, obviously there was a few on deeper cuts on Lover and a little bit on Reputation, but I know a lot of people get annoyed when people say, let's hear Taylor Swift go back to her country roots, and this is not a full step towards country roots, but in my opinion and musical taste, it's a step in the right direction. Speaking of roots, I do love how on Illicit Affairs, that is such a throwback to her roots. You know, the guitar lick circles around a bit and is a bit more pronounced, if you know what I mean, in comparison to the rest of the guitar licks on the album. Invisible String. Now, this song is a first dance song, if there ever was one. You know, I think it knocks Thinking Out Loud out the park. In my opinion, I think that song is done. I'm just bored of Thinking Out Loud now. But it's absolutely an emotional knockdown. It's a very simple song, but it's also very, very detailed as well. And I do love how the instrumentation is very, very plucky on the strings and a very, very simple beat as well. The beats and drum and percussion sort of sections on this album are not very complicated. They are very, very simple, if you know what I mean. Which I like. It's stripped back. It's almost like an acoustic album, if you know what I mean. Now, towards the end of the album, we've got Betty. I think this is a song about memory of high school regret. It's, again, very, very vivid in the details of the lyrics of this album, but very, very carefully constructed as well. It's a very good storytelling song, if you know what I mean, talking about regrets. And again, I love that she's swearing more. You know, I personally think swearing in songs, it just makes it more raw and honest. Now, Peace, again, I know she's worked with a few very famous producers and Bon Iver. I think she's channeled the inner hymn, particularly on the textures of the song Peace. Now, in this one, it does have programmed beats, very, very blinky, which, you know, like I said, it works on some songs, but it doesn't work on others. Her songwriting is a lot more ambitious than the rest of the album and the rest of her songwriting in general. Now, what do I think of this album as a whole? Obviously, I've skipped a few tracks, but I really, really love this album. It's a very chilled album. It's very, very mellow. Like I said, it could just be a very, very well built up acoustic album. And to me, it's a very, very big step in the right direction. To me, sort of liking Taylor Swift music a little bit more. You know, I loved the Red album. I liked 1989. Reputation, it just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I know obviously she was trying to make a huge statement with that album, but it wasn't for me. Lover, again, a little bit better than Reputation in my opinion, but Folklore, it's just such a good album. If I had to give it a rating, a solid 8 out of 10. But a great step in the right direction. Tracks that are huge highlights for me are Cardigan, Mirrorball and Exile. Just absolutely beautiful tracks. Let me know what your thoughts are of this new Taylor Swift album Folklore in the comments below. Again, like I say, don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe and be part of this ever-growing music-loving community. And like I say at the end of every video, we're a small community, but a growing community of music fans all around the world. And at the end of the day, it's all about the music. Stay safe, wash your hands, have a good one. See ya.